Ba-da-bum. Another UFC fight night in the books. Austin was pretty damn good. I don't know how you guys are feeling about it. I'm not usually actually one for like super short fights and super how shall I put this? Helps if I have the fight card up, doesn't it? It would help if I just, had the fight card up. Anyways. Here we go. I'm getting it. Yeah, I'm not normally like a super big fan of fights like that are like the main event for this card, which is a 64-second knockout that leaves me kind of asking some questions, or even like the Jalen Turner Bobby Green fight, or the Cody Brundridge Zach Reese. Although I'll take a slam knockout all the time. Drakkar Klose had a slam knockout as well. So like there's some problems there of like fights that left me with the questions I had coming in still being very, very much apparent. We'll dig deeply into that in the main event. But let's quickly talk about like dumb stuff going on in the MMA community, which I feel like I've gone through a number of times, but like I feel like this is just going to be like a segment at the beginning of episodes now. So I got two items. One that is like probably kind of seriously dumb, because there is actually probably some legal consequences on the matter. And then one that is just like fans being dumb. So the first one is the whole Neil Magny thing. Now, if you don't recall, Neil Magny in the lead up to his Ian Gary fight said, "I'm going to beat him like he's my son. Like I'm going to whoop him like he's my kid." Now, of course, this provoked a bunch of reactions. Some people being like, "Oh my God, he beats his kids," or to "He's kidding, guys. Relax." But here's the thing that really, to me, is fun, is that this week, Neil Magny has been, along with other people, like incredibly vocal on social media talking about how people sharing that and having opinions on Twitter/X are hurting his child custody battle. And this is the thing. Someone told me I was being really, really sensitive when I said this. I don't get it because I think he didn't read the tweet. But why would it matter what social media does with that line? I worked for a time as a stenographer in family court. So I witnessed some custody battles, parental right battles, and so on. No legal training, whatever. It wasn't, at least where I live, it's not required to be a stenographer. Stenographer is like, essentially, here you go. Are you bondable? And can you type fast? And I am both. So that was all. And this is the thing, is that if I was the stenographer in the Magny child custody case, here's what's going to come up. There's going to be a video of Neil Magny at a press conference, a UFC press conference, saying, "I'm going to beat him like I beat my kids." There's not going to be an exhibit of what Joe Blow on Twitter thinks about that. There's not going to be an exhibit of like Ian Gary talking about that statement. It's going to be the video, the direct, the alpha sourced quote on the matter. That's all that is needed. So the idea that Ian Gary or anybody else has messed up Neil Magny's like child custody case is false. Neil Magny messed up Neil Magny's child custody case. That's it. They don't need more. They'll dig into like seeing like, the veracity of the accusation. Obviously, did he beat the kids? Is there a medical report somewhere? Do the kids say he did? Has anyone witnessed it? Sure. But there will be no follow-up on any of the Twitter theories and comments on the matter, because It's not needed. You have the alpha sourced confession. And this is just hilarious to me that like that the MMA community is like, oh man, no, oh man, like no, it's soft fans making a big deal of this that's going to get him in trouble. No, it's the statement. It is the fact that he said that at a press conference. Number two, and being quite honest, this is the more like kind of disturbing, but like at the same time also like non-consequential thing. Veronica Hardy fought on this card. And obviously she's married to Dan Hardy. They have an age gap of 13 years, I do believe. I could be wrong. It could be like 14. But like it's a lot. He was in middle to high school when she was born. So like it's a lot. It's more than you would see generally in a relationship. But now for some reason, probably because Pat Barry got a lot of crap for his whole relationship with Thug Rose, we have now got to compare that. And here's the thing. The problem with Pat Barry and Thug Rose's relationship is not the age gap. It's that, by his own acknowledgement, Pat Barry met his wife when she was 15, and he was an adult coach at the gym. That's the problem. If Pat Barry had met a 23-year-old Rose, okay, the age gap would still be a little bit weird, but it would be, I don't want to use the word fine, but it would be a non-story. And like, that's why Dan Hardy and Veronica Macedo Hardy's relationship is not really given the same squinty eye treatment. Because as far as I could say, and if like someone has details otherwise, they met when she was like 24. Like, sure, you're in your late 30s. She's in her mid 20s. It's a bit weird. It's a bit odd. But there's nothing there beyond the summer fall relationship dynamic. So anyways, those are your two sort of silly moments from MMA Twitter this week. Let's get into the fights. Let's talk about what matters, which is the fights. Main event, Beneil Dariush versus Arman Tsarukyan. This ended really, really quickly. This is actually the least favorite way for this fight to end, in my opinion. Because coming into this fight, I picked Dariush. And it's not the Dariush won that makes me unsatisfied. Because I kind of wanted Dariush to lose. Because Dariush has hit his ceiling. Like, he's not going to be a champion. He's probably not going to fight for a belt. He's fought enough of the guys at the top of the division that I'm like not dying. Like yeah, sure, he's not fought Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Islam Makhachev, but like, do I love any of those fights? No, not really. I think I would handily pick him to lose all those fights. And I do think he got a little bit overrated off of like beating the ghost of Tony Ferguson. But my questions coming into the fight with Arman Tsarukyan are, okay, what happens in a prolonged exchange? Because Dariush, keep in mind, got melted by Alexander Hernandez. That ended up not meaning much for Hernandez. I mean, it did in the sense that it got him pushed up the rankings to fights that he then promptly repetitively lost. And I'm not saying that's going to happen with Tsarukyan, because Tsarukyan is better than Alexander Hernandez. I'm not saying they're the same. I'm just saying that the way they beat Beneil Dariush, kind of really similar. Dariush is kind of a slow starter. Everyone kind of has some early success against him. And it's when he gets into a prolonged groove that like things actually happen and his offense starts to click and his red mist sort of descends and we get the berserking angel of death known as Beneil Dariush. And we didn't get to that stage. So I'm disappointed in that regard. Still, it's a pretty cool knockout. It's a knockout with his hands, which is something that I have been a little bit worried about Arman Tsarukyan in general with, because his boxing is kind of poor. But, you know, he at least can hurt people. The hand speed looks good. The explosiveness looks good. The accuracy looks good. I still have questions about him. I still have thoughts, concerns. I don't share his hype train where people are like, he's going to be a champion, and there's like no question about it. I can't get there. I'm sorry. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. But yeah, I mean, what do you do with him next? I mean, is obviously Poirier, Oliveira, or Gaethje. I probably wouldn't go Gaethje just because I want Gaethje versus Makhachev because, realistically speaking, um, he's the one that should get the title shot. He beat Poirier. Oliveira has lost to Makhachev. That's a matchup we've seen. It's not fresh. It might end differently. Don't get me wrong. Like there are some things I could see Charles doing differently and like making it an interesting fight, but it's not fresh. Whereas like Gaethje would be fresh. He's earned it. He's got that win over Fiziev, which basically got Gamrot into title contention. And yeah, it's great. I guess you could also do the Gamrot rematch for Tsarukyan, but like I would go with Tsarukyan versus Oliveira. That would be my personal pick. For Dariush, I've got Michael Chandler because, sorry, Chandler, the Conor McGregor fight, it's not happening. And I don't really know what else to say on the matter. So you need to move on. You need to either move on. Well, you need to move on because you either need to move on and fight other people or you need to move on and retire, I guess. And Beneil Dariush and him I think would be a really underrated fun fight. So there you go. Jalen Turner knocked out Bobby Green. Bobby Green looking to do his usual slip and thing. Blitz in, throw a little bit of combinations, a little bit of counters. Turner hitting him hard, doing his thing, and then boom, drops him with a big punch, gets on top, destroys him. Referee Kerry Hatley doing a terrible job on the stoppage. There were at least, I think people have been stating his lows too. I thought he hit him with 3 times after he completely gone unconscious. And that's ignoring the like half dozen or so shots that he hit him with when Green was, not intelligently defending himself. So Kerry Hatley did a terrible job. People are calling for his head. I'm not going to bother because, to be honest, Kerry Hatley's had worse stoppages than this. So like, I don't know. I can't summon up a huge care, I guess, because I can yell and scream about it and he's going to ref another fight in the UFC. So there you go. I don't know. People have been asking like if Turner holds any of the blame. No, you go till the referee stops you. Jalen Turner did nothing wrong here. If you want a fighter to point a finger at for being a little bit grotesque, it would be Arman Tsarukyan, who has beef with Bobby Green, apparently based on Bobby Green calling him boring. They had 2 scuffles in the hotel. The first one when Arman's crew like surrounded Bobby Green and then let Arman kind of get in his face, and then Bobby Green came back later with like reinforcements and Arman's guys ran off. So I don't know. It's not a good look. And then and then he said he really enjoyed watching Bobby Green's head bounce off the canvas and get destroyed further by Jalen Turner. So if you want a fighter to kind of point a finger at and go ew, it would be Tsarukyan and not Turner. Turner just did his job. Turner should really go up to 170, and that's what I have. But like, if he's gonna fight at 155, I guess he rematches Gamrot. There's not much else that makes sense, honestly. Like, I don't know. Like, it feels like a bummer for Gamrot to go from title eliminator title shot alternate. But like, it's clear they don't see him as a contender because like when the opportunity to stick him in there when he was the backup that you're supposed to stick in against Makhachev, they went and got Alexander Volkanovski instead. So I guess I cannot rate Gamrot off of 2 pretty controversial wins, frankly, over Turner and over Tsarukyan, and then a injury stoppage against Rafael Fiziev that highly. It's 3 wins. It gives him the resume and whatever, but like I can't get hyped. And if the UFC is not going to get hyped, then I'm not going to treat him as a title contender. So rematch with Turner. Bobby Green, I don't really care. I guess you could rebook the Dan Hooker fight. They're both probably going to be out for a while. You could revisit that, but like it's like retirement is probably the answer. He's 37 years old. He just probably had some years taken off of his life there. It's time to think about a life beyond fighting or a life of coaching fighting. I guess that would be the other option. But we're at that point. He's not washed or anything. Like, nothing about this performance, despite the fact that I picked Bobby Green to beat Jalen Turner, entirely based on the idea that, like, Turner would not instantly nuke him and would run into problems with the weight cut because he's huge. It's not that. Like, this... We're going to talk about a fighter later on who lost that I do think looked bad. Bobby Green was not that. He got caught. He got knocked out. He got wrecked. It's just more of a case of like he's gone as high as he can go. I think everyone would agree with that. And it's time to think about, you're almost 40. It's lightweight. This is not heavyweight where you can fight to like 45. It's time to think of the future. Maybe do some kind of like retirement fight. Give him a quote unquote easy fighter to like do the retirement with, or somebody else who's in like a similar boat. Like do the Ed Herman, Zach Cummins treatment. But despite the fact that they have that model, they probably won't. Okay, Rob Font, Davidson Figueiredo. Okay, this is the fight where I thought Font looked kind of done. Now, in fairness, we kind of thought Font was done in the after the Aldo and the Vera fights, where he got hurt quite badly. But those fights had something to them where Rob Font was still functionally Rob Font. He was going out there and he was working his jab heavy, body heavy, capable, technical, clinical boxing game that I love, that I absolutely love. And he would just get clubbed. And it's like, okay, you can't hold up to the violence that Aldo brings or that Vera brings. And, that's fine. They're two really, really, really good fighters. This was a fight that, like, don't get me wrong, Davidson Figueiredo looked good. He looked quick. He looked powerful, even up a weight class. He didn't appear to be at all cowed by the reach differential at play. He came out here. He looked as good as he could look. But the story of the fight was Font not working the body, like at all. I think he threw something like 6 shots. Hang on. Let's see what UFC stats, for what it's worth, has to say about this fight. Because, if I've got numbers, I might as well use numbers. Rob Font, please. I think this will probably be the only... This will probably be about the only one that I really have to use the UFC stats for. Let's see here. Yeah, only landed 45 strikes, only 46 strikes, only 394. That's very low. Like, the output wasn't great. He was pretty okay in the first round. He threw 37 punches, landed 22 of them. Very nice. But then, like, after that, we're down to 33 landing 15, 24 landing 9. And obviously, part of that was him getting hurt and so on. But, like, the body shots here are terribly low. 2 for 3, 1 for 1, 2 for 2. So, like, the accuracy was good, but Rob Font in a fight getting outlanded to the body in 2 out of 3 rounds? That's weird. The jab wasn't really there. The range finding wasn't really there. It didn't look like Rob Font. So, like, that's kind of a weird situation we put in here. Like, Figueiredo won the fight. There are promising signs. Like, he still hits hard at 135. He still deals with, like, the fact that he's going to be generally at a reach disadvantage. Doesn't seem like a mental break for him. But it did feel like Rob Font just did not fight very well. And that's kind of discouraging going forward for Font. Figueiredo picks up the decision win. I put him up against Dominic Cruz. Like, is that crazy? Is that crazy? I think that works. Really, 2 former champions, big deal. You could headline a fight night with that easily. It's a fight with interest and with intrigue. And you're pretty much going to have to give like Cruz something kind of big. So we might as well go that route. And for Font, I've got the winner of Phillips versus Munoz. Realistically speaking, I really just wanted to be Kyler Phillips because he's already fought Munoz. I don't have a huge interest in a rematch. It's long enough ago that like the fight is still a little bit different than what it was at the time. But like, I don't really need to see that. Whereas Kyler Phillips offers something intriguing and interesting. Sean Brady basically just ragdolled Kelvin Gastelum. Like the first round was semi-competitive. Let me put it this way. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines of notes for the first round. And usually 9 lines of notes means something relatively competitive happened there. There were moments where Gastelum was able to get away from the control. He was able to stagger Brady at one point. They both kind of staggered each other when they both landed fairly flush and actually had each other in both in a problem. But Brady still won the round. He still was able to take him down. He was able to catch a kick, get a slip, knock him down. And, was working for a rear naked choke from back. He wasn't even really close, but, getting some damage in and was able to mat return him towards the end. And then, like, the second and third round, just Brady getting takedowns. Brady just getting takedowns and eventually rocket on it was a Kimura, right? It was an arm lock of some description. Yeah, Kimura. Yeah, he gets Kimura on and just basically powers it out. Like, Gastelum looks done. Don't get me wrong. Like, someone's been saying, like, you guys are forgetting, like, the Darren Till. He made Darren Till look like a strategic master and whatever. But, like, this is, like, the first time where, like, I have thought that, like, not only is he losing and that he's being outthought and his fight IQ is low, but, like, he has no answer. There is no point in this fight that beyond, like, I don't know, maybe halfway through the first round there I was like, Gastelum's kind of got something here. And it's like, nah, just getting run over. It's retirement time for him. Brady, I've got Jeff Neal as the next opponent. I know he called out Ian Gary, specifically Ian. Well, I think he technically called out the Gary Luque winner, but really Gary, he's not going to get that fight. Mostly because it's not deserved. Like it or not, like Ian Gary or not, and I don't particularly. I do think that there's a lot of overhype going on in the Ian Gary camp. But if he beats Vicente Luque, realistically speaking, he is above Brady. There is no sense in that fight. You can do interesting stuff with Ian Gary that continues to work him up the ladder. And Brady, this guy in his early 30s, kind of boring, very physical. He could beat some people. Don't get me wrong. Like, ironically, I'm not saying I wouldn't pick Sean Brady to beat Ian Gary. I'd honestly have to think about it. I'd have to, like, go through some film review and come up with an answer on that. But, like, getting knocked out, well, TKO'd, by Bilal Muhammad has pretty much precluded Sean Brady from, like, title contention. And Gary's not precluded. You would move him up. You could do Sean Brady, Ian Gary, now before the Luque fight, because it's kind of a similar thing to fighting Luque. But there is zero interest in doing that fight beyond that. There are a lot of people being like, I love it. It's like, no, you just really dislike Ian Gary and you want to see him lose to Sean Brady. And there's nothing wrong with that, but, like, don't sugarcoat it. Jeff Neal, like I said, is the one that makes most sense. He's kind of in a similar place to Brady, where I don't have any faith that he can be a title contender, but, like, they're good and kind of gatekeepers to that. You could also do him against Vicente Luque. Clay Guida versus Joaquin Silva. This fight was a lot of Guida getting some takedowns, getting some pressure, but, like, getting lit up on the feet outside of, like, giving Silva a Charlie horse on the ground. I don't know. I don't have much else to say about the fight. Like, it was a Clay Guida 2023 fight where somehow he's still relatively tough. He'll keep up in terms of strikes landed. The difference was like 3 strikes significant and total was like 20. So he'll go out there and he'll do his thing, but like the people he used to be able to instantly like, put on the ground and keep there and out scramble, he can't anymore. Silva was able to get some things done. I had Silva winning the second and the third round. Pardon me, the first and the third round. I gave Guida the second. Some people bragged on that scoring because Guida didn't do much with his takedowns. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But he got 2 takedowns, and the quantity of strikes landed was in his favor. Significant strikes was about dead even. He had 3 minutes of top control time, and yeah. I'm not going to get angry if you scored it for Silva, but I think it's perfectly fine to give it to Guida. That round, to be clear, Silva won the fight. I don't really know what to do with either guy. Silva's a kind of a guy who's like just kind of meme-ish. He doesn't really prove anything, and he's 34 years old, so he's a bit old. He's not going to change and become a stable, structured meta fighter at any point in the near future. That's just not going to happen. And I don't know. I guess give him like Rafa Garcia, who also beat Guida. And for Guida, I'm not going to matchmake for the guy. He should be retired. He should have more than enough money to be retired. This is a guy who has fought in the UFC. Hang on. We got to count this up. Because this is insane. This goes to the whole fighter pay argument. Clay Guida has been fighting in the UFC since 2006. He was coming to the UFC 20-6 as a fighter. So he had 26 fights already. He has won 18 since then in the UFC and lost 18. So this is a guy who has had a 36 fight career in the UFC and has been fighting for them for 17 years. 17 years. You'd be retired in any other sport. or like you wouldn't just be hanging around, put it that way. And he is. And some of that I think is probably he hasn't said anything about like, needing the money or whatever, but like I don't know. How much of that is probably him just needing the money? Punahele Soriano versus Dustin Stolfus was way more competitive than it had any right to be. Stolfus knocked him down in the first round, stole that round, and then ended up rear naked choking him. Like I don't know. Like this is a rare case of like there is no reason that Puna Soriano should have lost this fight. Like he did. I'm not questioning a bad judge's call. I'm not questioning a bad referee call. I'm not questioning anything. But like you watch them exchange and you look at the speed edge that Soriano has over Stolfus and you're like, this shouldn't be close. Somehow it was, and somehow he lost. It just defies logic. So congratulations to Dustin Stolfus. You get yourself another win in the UFC. I didn't think you would ever win. So you have easily outperformed my expectations. And what to do with them? I have Stolfus against Cedric Dumas for just comedy. And Soriano is at the point where, like, I at one point thought you were going to be good. I thought, look at this early 30s guy out of Hawaii, tough, fast, athletic, little small, but like, a guy who can go out there and do well. And he's just been bad a lot of the time. He's losing fights that there isn't really a reason. The MMA vivisection guys came up with this, or it might have been the heavy hands guys, where he just can't avoid an aspect of the fight that his opponent wants to push on him. He can't do it. He can never do it. And that seems like a fatal flaw at this point. Speaking of fatal flaws, Miesha Tate just like effed Julia Avila for 2+ rounds and then rear naked choked her. Also looked like she hurt her ankle at some point and was still doing it. Like apparently early on because like they were icing it between rounds. So I don't know. Avila, I'm done. You're 35 years old. It's not that you couldn't stop Misha Tate's takedowns. It's that you didn't look like you knew how. You didn't have an idea. You train in Oklahoma. How have you not found a wrestling coach? I don't understand. You're strong. You're athletic. It would be one thing if you like properly defended a takedown and like Misha Tate, because she's been wrestling for 20 plus years, finds a way to get you down. Like, I'm not disrespecting Tate when I say this, but you didn't look like you had any idea of what to do when Tate shot. It was good to see Tate return to like the bread and butter instead of this kind of like slick striking game she was trying to do with Lauren Murphy and with Ketlin Vieira and got her just beat up. So I don't know. I guess in a way I'm happy to have been wrong, because Misha Tate is a legend and I want to see her do well. But like at the same time, the reasons I was wrong was I was like, Avila's going to like, really drill wrestling and like try to do something, and like, nope. Next up for Tate, I've got Eileen Perez in the Battle of the Booties. Cody Brunrich was in all kinds of problems on the ground with Zach Reese, and then he knocked him out with a slam from an armbar. This was a second straight slam in that regard. So great job, fantastic work by Brunrich. I don't think you're good. You're in the fraud check Dana White Contender Series filter spot. And for Zachary, I don't know. I don't know for Zachary. He's like, he's 6'4". He seems fairly athletic, fairly strong, but like, it's a mess. I knew he was a mess coming in, but like, I just thought Brunrich was enough of a mess that like it would just be super messy, and Reese would come out on top. And then we got this instead. It was a mess. I'll say that. I particularly found the Elias Theodorou package touching. Elias is from the same general area I'm from. I met him. He was a super nice guy. And to be clear, like, not even like he was a nice guy to me, but by all accounts, Elias Theodorou was an incredibly nice human being. A guy who truly broke the mold of what we're seeing from MMA fighters right now. So I don't know. Anytime we can talk about his great qualities, I'm a fan of. Joe Selecki got knocked out by Drakkar Klose on a slam. Out of an armbar. 2 in 1 night. I don't have much else to add. I don't know what you can add for a 1 minute or for a 1 round slam. I think it was fairly quick too. I don't think the round wasn't even terribly far in. Yeah, minute 41. So this was even quicker than the Brunrich slam knockout. I don't know. Drakkar Klose is a fun fighter. I'm good to see him fight really whatever. I've got him against Joel Alvarez. That would be pretty fun. And for Joe Selecki, I don't know. I penciled in Mark Diakese, 2 guys who are pretty messy strikers. Selecki, I think, is aware that he's not a striker. Diakese's not. I guess that'd be an entertaining fight, but like I don't know. Like I do think Selecki is just like really, really hard capped. Like he doesn't have it. We lost the Steve Garcia Melt Costa fight to Garcia pulled out, right? Garcia illness, probably in relation to the fact that he cuts a bunch of weight. And that's not like me saying he's like chickening out of the cut beat him or whatever. It's like, if you've ever cut weight, like your immune system does legitimately kind of go to shit. So like when you're cutting a lot of weight, the chances of getting legitimately sick are quite high. Ior Potara versus Rodolfo Bellato. Potara, I thought, won the first round. He was landing more quantity, and he was controlling the fight at range. He was doing his thing. Bellato was able to crash into him, chase the clinch, and land heavy, like dirty shots. But like Poteria was throwing back in the clinch. He wasn't wilting. It was pretty impressive. Not high technique from either guy, but it was like, kind of neat. And then we kind of had the same basically, except Bellato was more charging, more chasing, and he got knocked down at one point. But while they were on the ground, Potero was landing tons of stuff, hard ground and pound, and I think he punched himself out. I think he got tired. He was, landing elbows, landing punches, landing hammer fists, and I was like, he's gonna finish Bellato here or run out of gas, and the latter happened. Bellato was able to defend, pushed him into the cage, got a takedown with 2 minutes left, passed a half guard. Poterio was not controlling his posture at all. He was getting hit really, really hard. Bellato mounts him, takes his back, works the rock'em sock'em GMP ground and pound, which is all I really got to say, and picks up a TKO here today. Yesterday. Did this fight, so I picked Bellato to win this fight off the basis of physicality. To a degree, he did. Poteria also got tired. Am I impressed with what he did? No, I think he's still a pretty bad striker. And like, he's the sort of guy who's going to have to just kind of clinch maul people, like force his way into the clinch, crash in there, try to control them. And he's not great at that, but he's got like the natural toughness, the natural durability, I should say, and power to make something work. And he's young enough at 27 at this weight class to turn into something. But he is not something right now. I'm hoping to see a lot of improvements from him next time out. And I've got Devin Clark lined up, because if there's anybody who is the gatekeeper to, so I hear you're a guy who likes to clinch maul, it's Devin Clark. For Ihor, I've got like Anton Turkali. Turkali is apparently still around, so go with it, I guess. We had a Mark Montoya package, again, in regards to his battle with cancer. Very touching as well. Very appreciative of that. I have no personal connections with Mark Montoya, so it affected me a lot less deeply, but it was there. Wellington Turman, Wellington Turman was looking good, which is what makes this so bad. He was looking calmer. He was looking confident. He was looking composed. He was even throwing like a jump knee and not rushing everything to try to get into the clinch. Did get into the clinch eventually. Did take down Gooden with a big authoritative slam, the first slam of the night. He was working some GMP, had a nice guillotine attempt there from top position, had mount for a hot second. Gooden survived, got back to half guard, but like Turman had a very good round. I'm like, oh, this is nice. Like this is better. I always kind of forget that Turman's only like 27 years old, so like the door on him improving is actually not closed. And then the second round, he got clipped really, really badly, and ended up getting rear naked choke. Who had Jared Gooden by submission? I don't know. It's hard to say that because, like, emphatically, I do actually think Gooden looked worse. Like he's a guy who's supposed to be a good striker, and like for a round, anyways, or half a round, Turman was edging him. Was one of the most uncomfortable strikers, grappler heavy fighters in the UFC's welterweight division. Was doing a good job against him. And he did knock him out, but like that's not real, or not knock him out, but hurt him very, very badly at the start of the second round. But that's not really Gooden's game. So I don't know. It's kind of weird. Gooden won, but like I come out of this with like a worse feeling about his ability to compete. I've got Trey Waters next for him. And for Turman, I've got basically Dana White Contender Series fodder. Despite the fact that he looked like better, and that I think the whole alliance with Glover Teixeira and Alex Bahia will pay dividends in the long run. Still got beat up. Jamie Lynn Horth took till the third round to figure out that I am big and I can just kind of bully Veronica Hardy. And when she did, she won the round. But yeah, she lost the first 2 rounds. Or, well, I shouldn't say the first 2 rounds. I missed the beginning of the first round between these two, so I can't really say. But let's have a look here. Okay, it was actually a lot closer than I thought it was. Apparently, it was only 17-16 in strikes landed. Hardy's were much cleaner though. Second round was definitely hers, despite the takedown and like 2 minutes of top control. And then the third was Horth. So it was disappointing because I think if Horth just did the thing, she would have won the fight. It's hard to not watch the end of the third round of Horth versus Hardy and go you know what? I was totally wrong to pick against Hardy. But she's still a fun fighter. She'll do something kind of neat every round or so. I've got her against Montana De La Rosa, and I've got Horth against Gabby Fernandez, who's ironically probably worse matchup than Hardy. But if she's not going to take a grappling a clinch and grapple game heavily to somebody off the bat, Fernandez might just nuke her. So that might be perfect. So I think the UFC probably does want to promote Gabby Fernandez. And I get why. She's an exciting prospect. She just has to learn to round out a part of her game that is very, very weak. And I think you keep testing it. I think you keep trying to make her do that. So yeah, that was the fight card. I enjoyed pretty much everything. Hardy versus Horth is not really worth a rematch. Turman Gooden is some weird emotional feelings on the matter. But Selecki and Closa, fun slam. Brundridge Reese, fun slam. Michite Davila, kind of a blast from the past, a little time warp action. Soriano and Stolfus, despite my frustration with it, was a solid fun fight. And Sean Brady, Kelvin Gastelum was interesting enough. Font Figueiredo was fun, albeit depressing. And then you had the 2 big knockouts at the top of the card. Very solid outing from the UFC. And that's all I got. So check out the links down below. You'll find a link tree there where you can find my Discord, other places to consume this podcast. It is on Spotify, Anchor, Acast, and YouTube. If you want to consume it that way, there's no video. You just get the you get the Mio and MMA screen, and that's about it. But if that's your way, that's your way. And I will see you for the next card, which isn't bad, but there is a notable problem that I think it's missing a main event. No disrespect to Yadong Song, because my lord, Yadong Song. And I do appreciate Chris Gutierrez, but it does not feel like a main event. And I'll talk about that more when it comes to breaking down.